Welcome to my podcast today, where my guest is Abby Schneiderman, co-founder and co-CEO of Everplans. We'll explain a little bit more about what Everplans is. So she ends up being an industry expert in the areas of digital estate planning and technology. She has been a contributor to Forbes.com and has been featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and CNBC. And today is especially timely conversation because we will be talking about her new book, In Case You Get Hit by a Bus, How to Organize Your Life Now for When You're Not Around Later. Thank you for joining me today, Abby.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Now, I understand you are from the New York area, but that maybe has changed a bit with the COVID times that we're all living in.
Yes, I typically live in New York City with my husband and my two little girls, but we have been in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware since March. I think we came on March 14th. We have been in the same household with my family, my parents, my sister from California, our dog, her dog, and even our babysitter from New York City has been with us this entire time. We've been incredibly grateful and super lucky to have this ability to be here with our family in this kind of way.
The remote work environment is just turning out for many, I would say, to be a blessing in disguise. And I'm sure that's proving to be the case with the book that we're going to be talking about that's just come out as well. But I think a little bit of background, I mentioned Everplans in your introduction, and I'm familiar with Everplans. I use it with my clients, so I know what it's about, but we should probably start for our listeners to understand what is Everplans and how did you get involved with that not too many years ago?
Sure. Well, I'm happy to tell the story. Everplans is a company that is all about helping people get prepared for the unexpected. It helps you think through everything from all the important details in your life that you need at your fingertips and that your families may need in the event that something happens to you. And we help people think through everything from their wills to their life insurance policies, to their healthcare directives, to their online accounts, to even what we call the softer side of legacy planning, letters to family and friends, thoughts on possessions and keepsakes, recipes that you want to make sure get passed down from generation to generation, and even funeral planning. And the original idea for Everplans came about when I was planning my wedding. And this was 10 years ago. So actually it was it wasn't, it was a few years ago, or a few more than a few years ago. But I was planning my wedding, and I was using all of these great online resources like the knot.com and Martha Stewart's websites. And I was on them every single day. I was on their apps and their guides and their calendars and their checklists. And I say this all the time. I don't know why my brain went from marriage to death, but I'm a repeat entrepreneur, and I started to think about life stages and what resources are out there that are guiding people through all of the next life stages. And I started looking into it just out of curiosity and found that there are plenty of resources for people having weddings, plenty of resources for people having children, plenty of resources for sending kids off to college, buying a home, thinking about financial planning, even retirement planning. But after retirement planning, that was it. There were no more online resources for what comes after retirement planning. And so I mentioned this idea to my friend and now colleague for 10 years, Adam Seifer, who's another tech veteran from New York, and said, who's helping people deal with death? And he said, well, somebody is. It's the biggest life stage that there is. Not everybody gets married. Not everybody has kids. But at some point, whether it's your own or a family member's, or you have to deal with this inevitable life stage. And I said, well, I don't know. I can't find anything online about this. And so we started looking into it. And we're not deaf people, we're tech people. But we thought, wow, there's this major need in people's lives for what's possibly the most scary, most overwhelming life stage that, it didn't seem fair that there were no resources that people could turn to. And so that was the original idea for Everplans, was to create the first modern consumer company focused on what we now call life and legacy planning. And we actually, I don't know if you want me to keep going, but I can tell you how we started.
Yes.
We started, and really it's the story for how the online platform came to be, which is also the same story as how the book came to be. And so we started by creating content, and we wrote hundreds of articles on everything from how do you write a will, to what do you wear to a funeral, to how do you name a power of attorney, to what's a digital estate plan. And we said, let's put up a website. Let's see if anybody will come to it. Let's see if there's any interest in this topic at all. And let's do something different. Let's actually write about this topic let's physically change the language of the topic. Let's make it more modern, more human, more approachable. Let's make this topic something that people can get through, because that's what's holding us all back from actually confronting some of these issues. And so that's what we did. And we put up the website, and now we have thousands of resources, content, articles, checklists, guides, quizzes, and that really became the foundation for the book. But initially we had an online website, and we still do today at everplans.com. But what a big part of our personal story is that a year after we launched the content platform, my family experienced a terrible tragedy in that my 51-year-old brother was on his way to lunch with his family while he was on vacation midday, when he was hit head on by an impaired driver driving down the wrong side of the road. And it was a disaster. Thank goodness, my brother had made some financial arrangements and had done financial planning ahead of time, but he didn't have a will. We had no idea how to access his accounts. We had no idea what accounts he had. And my family was thrust into this terrible situation of having to track things down, figure out what he would have wanted in a really short amount of time. And it's, what we have found in the many years of building this company and writing this book is that that's just my story. Everybody has a story. Our lives are made up of, sticky notes around the computer, file folders underneath people's beds. And when an emergency happens, when something, when something occurs, even just you're at the doctor's office and you need access to critical information right there, you oftentimes don't. And so that's really how the company and this book came to be. We just launched the book. It's coming out on December 22nd, just like a week or so. And it really is the culmination of all of the research and learnings and talking to people that we have done over the past many years in becoming experts in this topic.
It's a challenging subject. As a certified financial planner, I've been helping folks with their financial life for about 20 years. And this whole conversation that you're talking about, it's really estate planning, but it's death related. So it's negative. It's one of the great fears that we have in life. And it dawned on me the other day why this whole area, I think, is especially challenging, because from a brain standpoint, we avoid pain more than pleasure. And so our fears of, the fear of dying, the fear of losing someone else, the fear of running out of money, the fear of getting sick. I mean, all of those are wrapped into this conversation, right? About what happens. And it's not even if I die, it's when I die. And I have to look back. I love some of the PR on your book. The statistics are, and this is what everybody thinks. Oh, I don't need to worry about it, because what are the odds of getting hit by a bus? 1 to 495,000. You guys have this in your press release. And so then everybody's mindset is, I don't need to worry about that. But the odds still are that you are going to die someday. It's 100% likelihood that it's not an if, it's a when. So I think you did a great job in putting this book together from the standpoint of starting the conversation, helping people think through things. I chuckled numerous times as I read through the book, because you have, some of these common thoughts that we have that really are quite funny when we think about them and put them into perspective. But you co-wrote this, and have really used it as a tie-in to helping people think about, take action on, and Everplans is the take action on piece, isn't it?
Yes, you can think of the book as a companion guide to the website. The book really walks users through in an easy to digest format, all the things that you need to be thinking about. And then if you want to take action, the best place to do that is on Everplans, where you can actually upload, you can create and store and share and keep up to date all of this information that your family members need access to in real time. And it's just critical. It's all of the things that are in your head or, only that can become really big problems. I wrote a piece on Forbes probably close to a year ago, the 5 things that I'm shaming my husband into doing for his family. And, it was, he had just changed the Wi-Fi in our apartment and he never told me the new password. And I just started thinking about, what are those little things that only he knows that I don't know, that if something, God forbid, happened to him, I'd be, it would create a huge problem for me. And it was little things. It was the Wi-Fi password. It's the unlock code to his phone. Because if I needed to get into his email or the phone is the key, or the computer, unlock code for the computer is the key to all of that. And then another thing that I realized, which is just in our house, he drives. I would take the subway to work, and he's the one who has the car at the parking garage. And I realized if I needed to get access, this is just a little thing, but if I needed to get access to that car, those parking garage guys would have no idea who I was, and I would have no idea how to get the car from the parking garage. And so I just said to my husband, what do I say to those guys? Like, what's the number, or what that I need to tell them that they're going to know I can actually get out in the event of an emergency. And so it's also important things, that we help people think through as well. Everything from that I just mentioned, passwords that you need to make sure to document, important contacts that you have that in the event of an emergency need to be contacted, to the financial accounts and assets that you do have. You don't realize, your family may not know where do you bank or what credit cards do you use. But then also other things that you may not have. Important estate planning documents like wills or power of attorney or healthcare directives. And then also thinking about how to personalize your plan. And we walk people through elements like how to create an ethical will, or things that you might have in your life that are important that you want to pass down. My grandmother's cookie recipe that I want to make sure my kids are making with their grandkids, at some point many, many years from now. All the way through writing your own obituary and funeral planning too. So we really try to cover everything, but as you mentioned, in a way that is going to give you a chuckle here and there.
I think all of the stories that you're sharing it's the devil is in the detail, right? I mean, the information in your head or your husband's head, because it goes both ways, but it's not captured anywhere. So that's where I'm a huge checklist fan. And so when I learned about Everplans and I started using it with my clients, because it's another way for people to organize and capture that information, if not on paper, which is a lot of what my Mind, Money, Motion business offers, is checklists that you can handwrite or type or store and save on your computer, whatever your preference is. But then Everplans is that other option to capture it electronically, so that if your estate planning attorney or CPA needs the details, or your family member who lives out of state. But the checklist aspect is so helpful to go through, and most of the time we don't know what we don't know until you start going through the checklist to think about all these details that you're mentioning. So there's huge value. I've incorporated Everplans as a part of my financial planning practice with focus point planning, and I understand Everplans, that was something unique. It's available for a consumer to go to the site and use it annually for an annual fee themselves, or work through an advisor who's already using it as a part of their software that they provide through their services.
That's exactly right. So you can get Everplans in a few different ways. You can get it on your own, or if you're working with a financial advisor or other financial professional who uses Everplans in their practice, you can get it through them. And if they're not using it, you should tell them that they should be using it. But in May of 2015, we launched a platform for financial professionals who could walk their clients through Everplans. And in that case, it's a benefit because the financial professional can actually upload information on behalf of their client. They can collaborate with them in an ongoing way. They can work with both members of a household. So but yes, and then other ways that Everplans is made available is through employers and through insurance companies as well.
It's flexible enough to the point where, you know, there's still varying degrees of hesitancy on the part of consumers to use online platforms for whatever reason. And even with the range of clients that I work with, Everplans can be the portal to capture this information and or upload documents, or with some clients, they just use it to tell their family members usually where to find the document. They're not attaching it or uploading it, but they're physically noting where it's found in the house or the safe or whatever. So it's still addressing some of that, you know, the information's no good if no one can find it kind of fact.
That's actually a story that we tell in the book, which is that when I was first starting the company, and I mentioned the idea to my dad, who's 85 now, and he said, "Oh, I don't need this. Everything is with my estate attorney." And my mom said, "But who's our estate attorney?" And so it's, you know, you may have done some planning. You may have, you know, some paperwork that's on file with some financial professional, but if you have not shared where that information is, that you've done the information, it's almost like you didn't do it in the first place. And we have heard, you wouldn't believe how many stories we have heard from people who didn't know that a policy existed that could, you know, has a significant impact on their current situation. And to answer it wasn't really a question, it was more a comment on people's you know, willingness or hesitancy to putting information in, you know, in the platform. What we say is just leave breadcrumbs. You don't have to put the bank account number in your Everplan, but if you just put the fact that you have a bank account with Citibank or Bank of America, you know, that at least gives a clue to the family as to where they should start looking.
Absolutely. That whole asset list is one of my understanding is one of the most common estate planning mistakes. People don't make a list. So Everplans helps you to capture that. And I know in my Mind, Money, Motion business, I started creating for my own clients, and then now have it available on my website through Pinterest, my financial blueprint. So you can physically create and capture your net worth through an estate planning, for estate planning purposes as well. And so Everplans is a great tool. And if they're not quite ready for that, then my financial blueprint is a hard copy, but the virtual aspect has so many benefits to it that the more people use it, I think the more they realize the benefit to it. Plus, you've done a great job at everplans.com on educating all of these topics, anything you've ever wondered, and you do that in question format or checklist format. So huge consumer tools that I know I have found really helpful in working with clients.
That's terrific. And yeah, and the book really, the purpose of the book is really meant to help people think through all aspects, because our lives are made up of so much more than just our financial accounts and assets. And we really help you think through all the little, I call them nooks and crannies of your life, and how to organize them in a way that's not overwhelming, not, you know, here's my copy of the book, but I mean, really it's incredibly relieving once you take the time to even do just a few things that we help you thinking about, help you think about, will help you sleep better at night.
I had a guest blogger on my Mind, Money, Motion website, and he titled the column to be How to Love Your Wife After You're Gone. So really it's how to love your family even after you're gone when you do this kind of getting organized, whether it's on Everplans or you read the book and you make some of your own asset list compilations. So it is truly a gift to ourselves and to our family. And I think part of your PR says it's a gift to your family that they don't even know they need. But too often, it's just like your story. I think people don't really get the message until they have an experience where they lose someone and then realize, oh my goodness. So you're like me, our passion is to help people avoid that stress and to help that already stressful situation go so much less stressfully by having some of this information compiled and in writing and known to somebody else about where to find it when that time comes. It's not if, it's when. So let's be sure that we're telling our listeners more about your book in case you get hit by a bus, where to find that, as well as more information on Everplans.
Well, In Case You Get Hit by a Bus is available anywhere books are sold. And if you want more information on us, you could find it at incasethebook.com. And if you want more information on Everplans, you could go to everplans.com. But it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks for everything you're doing, Abby. It's a huge topic that truly every family will benefit from if they take action. Too often, many folks think that they have it all done because their documents are all in place. And that's important, but then there's homework, and this helps with the homework for the benefit of the family. So thank you again for all you're doing.